Now, there is no doubt about it that ever since the Oscars 2022 slap situation that was actually caused by Will Smith against Chris Rock live on television on stage, ever since that happened, we have seen millions of his own fans walk away forever, never to return, and we know that he's been trying to make a comeback with his acting career, with his music career, both of which didn't succeed in the way that he actually anticipated, and that is all driven by the fact that, as for his movies, they are all mostly sequels. He's working strictly on sequel movies, and a lot of studios right now within the film industry, within Hollywood, are beginning to wake up about the actors and actresses representing them that are getting way too overly political. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new, and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. So Will Smith, in the past, I would say 3 to 4 months, he's been very vocal about his politics, about his political views, forcing it on to the general public, forcing it on to his own fans, and how that's really just beginning to alienate his own fan base, or whatever's left of his fan base at this point. And we all know that he had a lot of drama going on with the most recent concert tour that he did a couple of months back. I believe it was back in September. We covered that as well, and how a lot of people were pointing out that parts of his crowd seemed to be computer generated, and it did, by the way. Something seemed very off and shady about that, and he got very defensive over those claims. But what's interesting here, though, has a lot more to do with Will Smith acting out yet again in the midst of a lot of studios that are actually part of Will Smith and his acting career comeback, beginning to cancel his movies outright over his political comments. Now, with both Hollywood and the media in serious trouble right now as they deal with tons of pushback from the public over their comments about Charlie Kirk's assassination and their anti-Trump messaging campaign, one significant development going on now involves more to do with Will Smith, who recently went on yet another rant after multiple studios actually associated with Will Smith decided to call it quits with making specific sequels to his past films after his Charlie Kirk comments and bashing President Trump. Now, Will delivered the following. What we are dealing with right now in our industry is full-on cancel culture for having a political opinion and for putting out the truth by being loud and clear to our audience. And the fact that we have to deal with consequences as a result of that means that we have lost our freedom of speech. As actors, when we lose business or opportunities, which I personally have over voicing my political opinion over people like Charlie Kirk and President Trump and the supporter of those two individuals, and the entire concept of MAGA, that's when you know it's over for us in America, thanks to the uneducated and stubborn American citizens that have no clue what they are talking about when it comes to politics. Unfortunately, we are dealing with a lot of stupid people right now in our country that are beginning to dictate the direction for Hollywood and the entire film industry, and it's saddening to say the least. Now, apart from what Will Smith stated here, this all comes just after Smith learned that the sequel to his film, Enemy of the State, was canceled by the studios handling that project after his comments about Trump and Kirk spread on social media. In addition to this, Smith was also working on a sequel to his hit film, Hitch. I believe that released back in 2005 by Sony Pictures. Now, Sony Pictures decided to also cancel that project outright and that sequel plan for Hitch after they actually heard about his political comments. And though Sony is still working on Men in Black 5, they outright canceled Hitch 2 as that was a film in development. To make matters worse for Will Smith is that the studios handling a sequel for I, Robot 2 also canceled that film in response to Smith's political comments. Now, as of course for Will Smith in general, he is losing projects left and right. So far, however, in light of these movies getting cancelled, Smith is still attempting to embrace his sequel movie comeback, though this is now beginning to look very grim and dark for Will Smith as WB, Warner Brothers, is having funding issues with I Am Legend 2, and they are also beginning to actually lose a lot of trust in Will Smith, and talks have been going on as for axing that project in general, as well, of course, due to Will Smith acting out in the public eye. Now, guys, let me say one thing about Will Smith right now. I think it's a very cheap move of him to basically come into his acting career to just strictly do sequels, right? In this case, it was, I, Robot 2, an Enemy of the State sequel, or any other sequel related to his past movies like Hitch, for example. That's just 3 examples there, and the list is beginning to grow on the number of movies getting slashed or axed or canceled, whatever have you, based on Will Smith's most recent behavior. Even Warner Brothers, WB, they are now beginning to lose a lot of trust in Will Smith, as I pointed just a couple of seconds ago, over I Am Legend 2. Now, I Am Legend 2, look, this is gonna be a very interesting thing, because this is probably like the biggest movie he's working on right now, apart from Men in Black 5. And Men in Black 5 is looking very, murky right now. We don't really know where that's going. There's a lot of problems between himself and Sony there, especially after they decided to slash other projects, such as, of course, Hitch, for example. But, one thing about all of this, too, is that he goes on to actually deliver the following. Cinema is dying, he says, because of MAGA and those following President Trump's dangerous policies to exclude freedom of speech and expression. The film industry as we know it will be gone forever if MAGA continues to influence so many uninformed Americans out there that need to get a damn education to know what's going on right now in politics and the entire political landscape. So, again, we know that Will Smith actually has been very angry with Sony Pictures, for example, over what they recently did. They were supposed to have multiple Men in Black movies, and a lot of those were canceled except for the 5th movie. So, they also got rid of Jada Pinkett Smith from playing Agent S in Men in Black 5 to play the romantic interest of Agent J, who, is Will Smith's character, by the way. That also is what ticked off Will Smith even more so with Sony, and there's a lot more drama to discuss on that front. But we know one thing about Will Smith right now is that he's really beginning to actually show a lot of aggression toward the public. He's beginning to show the fact that he is just becoming more and more unhinged as time goes on. The more he begins to realize that his music career is pretty much dead in the water, his acting career is also stagnant as we speak. As long as he focuses strictly on sequels, of his past movies that were once hits or very widely known to the American people out there and to the entire world, it's really a cheap move, as I pointed out. It's a very cheap way to come back into your acting career, especially since the whole 2022 Oscar slap situation. It just screams desperation. Like, hey, let's just come out with an iRobot 2, or hey, let's do a Hitch 2, or hey, let's do I Am Legend 2, which is looking, very unstable right now based on the funds by WB and everything that's going on with WB, but we'll have a lot more to talk about that down the road. But Will Smith, after his movies are getting canceled left and right, this is exactly how he's beginning to act out. Always going on that constant trope about how freedom of speech is dead, freedom of expression is gone, and how it's all MAGA's fault, it's all Trump's fault, and Charlie Kirk supporters out there. It's all just pure nonsense. Nobody wants to listen to actors lecturing the public anymore, and people are just over and done with it. But I would like to hear what everyone has to say about Will Smith losing roles left and right, and the 3 that we just mentioned are the top examples out there. Hitch 2, iRobot 2, and among others out there. But I would like to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.